Hello Tamers, Sergio back in day, and hope everyone's had a happy Easter. As it's about that time again, as we start off another countdown towards the release of BG21 World's Convergence. And to kick off this first deck list, we'll be returning to Vortex Warriors, following its 2.5 upgrade. 2.5 format upgrade. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to share this around to help with the algorithm. And let's crack into it. And starting off with the egg deck, for the most part, it's still the old reliable, a full playset of EX7 Fluffymon for the memory efficiency of the deck. As for the most part, you are still battling as the main focus of the deck's purview within Vortex. And thus, it still made sense to run this staple egg for Vortex Warriors. And now on to rookies. For the current rookie lineup, it still ends up seeing full playset of EX7 Patero and full playset of Structure Deck Patero as the main core engine for the deck, as always. EX7 Patero being able to hasten the climb by reducing evolution cost up by 1, and Structure Deck Patero for the searching capabilities. With the EX7 Patero obviously being the one you want to go into in the back, as it also ends up being the one that you'd ideally want to make your stack around, with the ability to gain 1 memory whenever you successfully beat over an opposing Digimon. And to be the rosemary on top of the proverbial chicken, I run a 2-2 split between BT14 Palmon and BT15 Pal X. Since this Pal package ends up still being useful for the deck. Since BT14 Pal hits when opposing Digimon, grants an opposing Digimon the alternate effect of whenever it suspends, lose 2 memory, which works well within the purview of the deck's ability to suspend stuff, as well as being able to reduce evolution by 1 as inheritable, well, as long as you have Green Tamer, which isn't that hard for the deck. And as a new as a new pick from seeing stuff around, Pal X here is also a good idea, as the on-play 1 Digivolving pairs wonderfully with BT14 Pal's start main, as well as the able to gain 1 memory whenever the stack sees a Tamer being played, since it'll see it when you Digivolve. And aside from that, the other tech picks that are out there is obviously continuing to go Bird Tribal with Muchomon. He is another DP battery for your Vortex Warriors, as well as granting a Pierce inheritable. And then promo Patero as another suspend down button once played, as well as being another DP battery, well, DP climb inheritable. And that's it for the rookies. Now on to level 4s. And for the most part, the lineup hasn't really changed much, as it's a full playset of EX7 Gale and full playset of new promo Gale as the core, with old promo Gale and Structure Deck Gale being brought down, being a 1-1 split now. With the EX7, and for the most part, even 7 Gale is the main one you want to go into starting off, as it establishes your Tamers pretty early on, as well as being another battle gain inheritable. Then, new Promo Gale being the go-to as you start your climb towards your endgame, being able to, well, suspend down something and immediately digivolve on play and when digivolving, to then pretty much climb pretty easily, as, well, for every suspended Digimon on board, the evolution gets reduced by 1, as well as being another DP gain inheritable. And then as for the 1-1 split between old promo and new, and then structured Gale, Promo Gale is another suspend down button when digivolving, as well as granting a DP buff that lasts into the opponent's turn. And then Structured Gale is included as another, well, mostly for its ability and security, as well as being an early Vortex body. Though, for tech picks, one obvious one that's been flowing around that, although ends up putting a wrench in consistency, ends up being the weirdness that is Octomon to this Rosemary Chicken already. As well, the main thing about this Octomon isn't that it's a body that you don't really digivolve into, but really play for its on-play effect. You spawn a Fujitsumon token on the board. More specifically, when there's 3 or fewer Digimon in play, as it'll spawn a Fujitsumon token suspended on the opponent's side, making it a very prime target for your Vortex plays, since it ends up being the only valid target on the board consistently, at making it, allowing you to either redirect into it or screw with the opponent a little bit, as being over the Fujitsumon token will force them to discard a card. While Octomon itself ends up being just a body that, depending on how you play, ends up being another DP battery, given, the top end in the deck already. That's it for level 4s. Now on to the level 5s of the deck. And for the most part, the lineup hasn't really changed all that much, as it ends up being a 4-1 split between EX7 Grand Gale and Structure Deck Grand Gale, and then 2 copies of Structure Deck Rapidmon to act as, backup. Since, for the most part, EX7 Grand Gale is still the go-to, being able to be a Vortex body and being able to grant itself immunity when digivolving to suspend one of your own Digimon, as well as working with the Structure Deck Grand Gale to possibly go wide when you use the effect and suspend down one of your own stuff. But for the most part, the 4-1 split is mostly just to maintain the unsuspended inheritable. While Structure Deck Rapid here still can see useful play as a digivolve option on the opponent, as well as granting immunity from deletion effects, as long as the tamer is present when you digivolve into it. And is pretty handy with the security burn inheritable, which works well with Vortex. Though, if we continue going with the plant terminology that I slotted in here, a new choice would be the BT17 Argomon, which can be quite useful against certain matchups, since it has the ability to reduce its own digivolve costs by suspending down up to 5 tamers on board, as well as being a pretty useful thing to keep on board depending on the matchup, as during the opponent's turn, it prevents the opponent's tamers from unsuspending, which for the most part is the only use of it, since if you were going the Octomon route, this ends up being a body the Octomon can digivolve into, thus creates a floodgate for the opponent. And that's it for level 5s. Now on to the main meat of this whole deck, being the level 6 lineup, which for the most part is slightly adjusted, as it's a 3-1 split between Structure Zephaga and EX7 Zephaga, still running Medieval Gaunt at 2 copies, and to round it off is 2 copies of the new Zephagamon Ace as the new heavy hitter of the deck. Well, going over the lineup reasoning, Structure Zephaga is still the main Zephaga to go into, being able to constantly be aggro heavy, as well as draining itself immunity whenever it sees something on suspends, as well as being able to boost itself up to 14 baseline. EX7 Zephaga for its main use more so as a beat stick and removal tool, and Medieval Gaunt for its, well, already established notoriety within the game already. And to go over all of them ends up being to go over as all of them as emergency options, or pretty much as another level 6 to go into fast, Zephaga Ace, with it being, once it hits field, being able to suspend one down one Digimon, and bot decking an opposing Digimon for every 2 suspended Digimon on board. Oh wait, well, more or less hitting every 2, one suspended Digimon for every 2 suspended Digimon on board. As well, it ends up being a piercing vortex body by itself, as well as being a blocker body, thus having it already having the effects of EX7 show active on it. And for tech picks, the obvious options include EX8 Dynamon as a pretty much more heavier beat stick with its Tech +1 body, as well as being able to remove stuff on board, suspended Digimon on board, and being able to floodgate the opponent by redirecting all attacks to suspended bodies, as well as being a sticky body with its fortitude to then trigger its on-play effects. Then, optionally, for a level 7 option, Quartzmon ends up being a good pick in hindsight, since you pretty much get to Digivolve and then practically get refunded for some amount by the amount for every 2 suspended Digimon and Tamer on board, as well as being pretty much floodgating the whole board by preventing everything else from unsuspending, and can pretty much burn a whole lot of security depending on board state to pretty much edge out the games towards your favor. And well, that's it for the Digimon lineup. Now on to Tamers. And for the most part, it hasn't seen much change, with it now looking at a 3-2 split between EX7 Shoto and Structure Deck Shoto, and the inclusion of the new BT20 Shoto. Obviously, it goes without saying, EX Shoto still being the main tamer, as ends up being your normal, well, inherent memory gain, as well as granting piercing and blocker to your bodies, as well as allowing your Vortex Warriors to unsuspend if they become the target for that effect. And then Strike Show for the memory setter, as well as being able to redirect your attacks into the opponent or other Digimon. While BT20 Shoto here ends up being more so as a enabler for Vortex for its end of turn effect. Though, if the case needs it, you can trigger its sort of main effect to bot deck itself to then cheat out a show from hand, and can act as a scramble if you're on an empty board without Digimon. Though I'm contemplating bringing this back down as a X7 Shoto, given the need be. But aside from that, for tech picks, the obvious replacement ends up being Promo Shoto, given that it allows you to play Alpatero from hand, and also refunds you memory whenever you Digivolve up into an avian or bird trait. And that's it for the tamers. Now on to the option lineup, which, for the most part, has gone pretty much more towards utility, as ends up being a 3-2-1-1 split between agility trainings, green scramble, green mem boost, and vortex resonance. Obviously, agility training goes without saying, being able to search, as well as having a delay to decrease evolution cost. Green scramble being able to decrease evolution costs substantially, as well as having the delay to recur pieces that end up in the trash. And then green mem boost, obviously for deeper digging and setting up memory for later. And vortex resonance to be a mixture of all three, in terms of being a search option and reducing evolution costs. Though, obviously, for tech picks, Ammo Brace and Blast Disaster for removal and interruption options. Then, another option that's floating around for some decks would be the promo Future Potential, which, to those who aren't aware, gets to play itself as long as you have a tamer, and allows you to choose one of your tamers, then allows you to play one Digimon with the same colors as the chosen tamer, with a play cost of 3 or less from hand or trash for the paying cost, and has the nifty security effect to allow you to cheat out a tamer. And to round it off, and Great Mem Boost ends up being a good option if you go with the Octomon route, since it ends up searching for both purple and green, as well as being another memory for later situation, and would definitely work, given that it allows you to be more memory efficient as you run Octomon for its 5 hard play cost. And that's about it for the deck itself. Now on to combos. And then going over combos, for the most part, for your starting hand, ideally, you want to obviously prioritize seeing your rookies, with PAL and EX7 Pajero being the obvious go-tos that you want to put into raising, and then prioritize seeing either EX7 Gale or new promo Gale to climb up, and also seeing Memory Search Shoto and EX7 Shoto to establish them early off of EX7 Gale. And then following that, you'd also secondarily want to see your utility options to establish, to both search and establish options early. Then it's just a matter of climbing the stack for your other pieces for your stack, and then seeing a high end to go into depending on the situation you see, while keeping Zephaga Ace as a hidden tech to counter when the opportunity presents itself. Well, the rest of the deck ends up being more utility, since, for the most part, you have so many avenues to play around with memory, since one obvious avenue is the PAL and PAL X package to trigger off the PAL Star main building, and then EX7 Petro as the base to play into efficient plays, since Gale practically in either situation will pretty much net a 1 evolution cost, since with Gale's effect, you can cheat out any of your Shotos, and it pretty much nets a -1 reduction either way. Since, well, for Palex's case, it ends up seeing the show being played and will pretty much refund 1 memory for that evolution. Then, obviously, new promo Gale, once again, being able to snipe one opposing, any Digimon on board to spend and reduce evolution costs as you continue climbing up into your bird trait. Case in point, being able to reduce costs going into your Grand Gales, though it, however, locks you out of going into Structure Deck Rapid, since it's not a not a bird trait Digimon. And then from there, it's just establishing and hopefully keeping your high end on board to pretty much wreck face. Though obviously, Medieval Gaunt can be slammed down at a reduced cost of 7 by forcing down any 2 Digimon on the board. And then, for supplementary cases, Zephaga Ace either on top of your low 5s or on top of Zephagamon to pretty much immediately blow away competition on the board. Though obviously Medieval Gun is also another target, given that it fulfills the alternate evolution cost of a level play cost 10 or higher Vortex Warrior level 6. And yep, pretty much overall, it pretty much plays out the same way, as you have so many avenues of pretty much gaining back memory to constantly suspend an opposing, wreck face, wreck into them, unsuspend off of Grand Gale, or put pressure by burning away security, and then gaining back all memory, while also having a 7 Shoto or Starter Shoto to control your targets, since, again, both have ways to control board, obviously. Old Shoto being able to allow your Vortex Warriors to unsuspend, and Structure Deck Show being able to redirect into the player if need be on empty while attacking into a Digimon. But overall, that's it for my look at the updated Vortex Warrior in the 2.5 format. And well, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe as we continue on with this countdown. And this is Cyberdraw signing off.